What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Got a couple of really quick duels for you guys to check out, including Red Eyes having 7 disruptions. Yep, it is actually a thing. People were asking me how the heck Red Eyes were starting to do a little bit in the OCG's meta game, and you might actually find out in our second duel where Red Eyes is going to go ham turn 1. This first duel is a little different though. This is going to be Tech Genis versus Zombies. I think Zombies are a very powerful deck. I feel like they are a deck that could definitely be and maybe like the top 7 in the TCG, mainly because like cards like Unizombie, Shiranui Solitaire, and Mizuki, like these are cards that are just as powerful today as they were when they came out, especially Mizuki. And really, when you throw the danger in there, you give them monsters on the field, and unlike other decks, like Zombies don't have to commit that many monsters. Like they don't have to go for these high risks. So you just go Dread plays. Basically, since they play Zombie World, all of their monsters become zombies, and they can just turn these monsters into like Vampire Sucker. And even if you do hand trap them, if they get Vampire Sucker and they have Zombie World, they can actually revive your hand trap and draw a card, and then you just have a hand trap sitting on the field that probably won't do all that much. But let's go ahead and play this out. Hopefully, we will get Needle Fiber and Savage Strike, so TG can actually do combos like this. I feel like we'll know probably in the next 10 days whether it's coming out. Ash Blossom's getting shut down by that Called by the Grave, and this is a monster that I gotta say, I think I may have kind of estimated this card. I didn't do a video on it, but the TG Tank Larva, this card's actually really good, and I think it just kind of boils down to anything that can produce tokens in the Vrains era is like ridiculous. So this is a card that's kind of like a little bit of a, well, it's not nearly as good as like Steam the Cloak, but it can be a very strong card. It gives you tokens when you use it for the synchro summoning, and obviously that can be really good. It's going to summon it back, or no, excuse me, add it to his hand, and then summon it back to the field, and it's looking pretty nice because he has his 5/5/2, which of course equals a very powerful like synchro summon. If you do want to do that, you can summon something like the Shooting Quasar Dragon or Blazar Dragon. I personally go for Blazar Dragon stopping summons, but this is where the part of the zombie deck where the dangers kind of start taking over, because those danger monsters don't really cost you any advantage. And he got Mizuki in the graveyard. Now everything on field is a zombie monster. Drops the Glow Up Bloom, and he has the Baller Drop, but get baited. I can't say it enough. I really do love TG1 EM1. His opponent now controls the TG Trident Launcher, which I don't know is actually going to do anything. If he does activate any effects, obviously since everything is a zombie on the field, Baller Drop can negate those effects. I feel like he's going to scoop here. I don't think that it was necessary to scoop, but then maybe you can argue, Cap, how is he going to get over Baller Drop plus the Blazar Dragon? I don't know if I would have negated the Mizuki. I think I might have banished just the I think I probably, well, no, because I gotta think about this for a second. I was thinking like instead of negating the Mizuki, maybe just banish the Vampire Sucker, but leaving your opponent with these two monsters, I'm not sure what they would have done. Although he could have just attacked over the Baller Drop and he would have got it back next turn. That's why I don't think that he had to honestly scoop here. He would have gotten his Baller Drop back, because this impermanence, while good, it's not gonna stop an attack. So I kind of feel like he prematurely scooped, but I guess he thought he couldn't get over the Blazar Dragon. Anyways, next duel. And that was an assault build. If you guys did see his hand, he was actually playing the new TG Halbert Cannon Assault Monster. This is the Red Eyes. Now it does say 7 negated. It's not 7 negations. It's 7 disruptions. People got to learn the difference between a disruption and a negation. A negation is something like an Infernity Barrier, or I guess you could even say maybe a fall. Now I would consider a Fall Blade like a disruption. A negation is like Cyber Dragon Infinity, or something like that. An Infernity Barrier, cards that just straight up negate cards. Anyways, he goes for Saryuja Skull Dread. Doesn't have any hand traps, and luckily that gets him to nothing but defensive cards. And this is actually Red Eyes. Now obviously he's playing guard dragons. We know that these are going to be released in Savage Strike, and Red Eyes can make these type of plays. That's the reason you're seeing dragon decks actually like flourish in the OCG, because they can make these strong plays. Unfortunately, we don't have this card, so rest in peps to that disruption that we don't have. And this is an incredibly powerful board. Now obviously he has 5 cards in his back row. He started with 5 cards in total, so I now count what he has: 5 monsters, he has 11 cards. So I'm gonna say going +6, pretty good in Yu-Gi-Oh, especially when you have this level of good back row. He's got 2 copies of Red Eyes Fang with Chain. Now if you don't know what this can actually take your opponent's monsters and you can kind of equip them onto your Red Eyes. He has a couple of Red Eyes on the field. He has Called by the Grave, so obviously that can be a disruption, and then he has Impermanence as well. And this is the thing, a lot of times you'll see these players make these strong boards with a couple of big negate monsters, but then it's like if you get kaiju'd or your opponent has like Prankatrops, like they can kind of break that, but I don't know that you're breaking this board where he has not only monsters with negation, but then he also has like, you know, 4 legitimate back row cards. I feel like this is pretty much a wrap. I mean, even with Spear Mode, I would probably still favor him, honestly, and I think the Red Eyes Flare Dragon is just kind of a little bit of icing on the cake. It's like, we're not going to allow this game to stall out. I'm just going to burn you to death. He also goes for Destrudo off of the Heretic. I mean, I don't think that really adds much to anything. Maybe he plans on reviving it during his next turn for a potential Synchro summon. He did negate, I believe, one of the Metaphor scales, which I would never have done because I just felt like it's kind of pointless, but he's going to take the Alcahest, and then his opponent is going to scoop. Red Eyes Fang with Chain is, Red Eyes, like, this is a really good card, and I haven't looked at the OCG builds of Red Eyes yet, but I do know they're playing Guard Dragons, obviously, but I wonder if they're playing this card. I feel like it's such a strong card, and you can get these Red Eyes monsters on the field easily, especially considering that Darkness Metal is pulled straight from the deck now. Like, it's pretty damn easy to get it out. So I feel like Red Eyes Fang with Chain is a card that you should probably be playing if you're playing Red Eyes. I know some people in the past maybe play like one copy of it, but it is actually a really good disruption if you're going first, or generally just if your opponent needs a monster to, you know, counteract what you're doing. But hopefully you guys enjoyed these short duels, and you know what, we'll pause. We'll look at the Red Eyes build. I'm pretty sure people are interested in that. Okay, so this is what the deck looks like on paper. This monster lineup is way slimmer than what I would have imagined. Maybe you throw a third Ash Blossom in here just to be completely, you know, maxed out on your hand traps, but you're going to run your 3 copies of Red Eyes because it's a Red Eyes deck, and obviously that same thing applies to Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. This card, because of the Guard Dragons, will never go above 1 now that every deck that's playing dragons can summon it from the deck. Black Metal Dragon has become a lot more important. This is a card that not only can you just instantly go for Link Karibo, but when this guy goes from the field to the graveyard, it's kind of like Altergeist Miluseek. You add any Red Eyes card from your deck to your hand. Now the interesting thing is, because this is an old card, it's not a hard once per turn, and it's good because not only does that search you a defensive card potentially in your Red Eyes Fang with Chain, which we saw in the duel, but that can also be, you know, you can summon this guy back with the Guard Dragon of World Legacy. This is a card that is basically a monster reborn for all of your low level dragons, so you can sometimes get this card into the graveyard a couple of times in your first turn, and that's really good because each time you're just going to be searching a defensive card, making it more difficult for your opponent to get through. Now this deck was almost not troll. I don't know what the fuck is going on with these summon dice. Personally, I would not recommend this in you know, any build that you're looking to play competitive. Like, I would probably just take out the summon dice, probably throw another card by the grave and another Ash Blossom, or like, you know, another Impermanence. I would probably honestly just round out Ash Blossom, Impermanence, and card by the grave. I would just bump them all to 3, maybe go 41 cards because these cards are just honestly too strong in the meta to just go without. Maybe you could even drop an Allure of Darkness, although like everything in the deck for the most part is like dark, so maybe don't drop an Allure of Darkness. He is running the one Dangerous Snake, which, I mean, I guess it's like, I guess so many of these dragons don't really care if they're in the graveyard because at some point you are going to summon them back, and there's so many Monster Reborns in this. Monster Reborn, you've got Return of the Dragon Lord, Soul Charge, World Legacy Succession is somewhere in here, so, you know, you don't really mind if your big dragons go to the graveyard, but this is really interesting. And keep in mind that outside of, you know, a couple of cards, for instance, the Heretic Link monster, we will be able to play this in just a couple of weeks when Savage Strike comes out. So I'm crossing my fingers that maybe Red Eyes could potentially become meta.